Doom, despair, and agony on me. Oh, deep, dark depression, excessive miseries. Oh, if it wasn't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Oh, doom, despair, and agony on me. Oh. Those of you who remember Hee Haw. Uh, those of you who don't remember Hee Haw, check it out on YouTube, and you will feel like you are on Planet Weirdo, because that was a very strange show. Uh, anyways, I'm going to try to do some emotional alchemy here and turn shit into gold. But things have not been going well, and I feel absolutely terrible. I had to reschedule an appointment that was 8:30 in the morning for Monday because I just haven't been able to sleep at night. And even if I stay up until 5 or 6 in the morning, I'm still awake fairly early in the morning. So I'm running on very little sleep. But anyway, since this is my Benzo report, October's been a total disaster. Um, I mean, I held it together pretty good, I think, through the squatters thing. But there was some leftover damage done by that. And then September 16th is when I found out my aunt had the aneurysm and got deathly ill. And according to what I've written here, it says 6 of 11 days afterwards, I updosed from a quarter to a half a milligram. And then we go down to, I'll just read off like the numbers to show you the roller coaster that I'm doing, which is a very bad idea. You got several days here where I stuck to a quarter in a row, like about 7. And then I'm talking about daily doses. We got a half milligram, and then a quarter, and then a half milligram, 3/4 of a milligram, back to a quarter, 1 milligram. The day I went to the dentist, 2¼ milligrams, which is 9 times my dose. And then then my papers are out of order to make me look like an idiot. After the 2¼ milligram day, then I had a 1.5 milligram day, 1 milligram, half milligram, half milligram, 1 milligram, 1 milligram, 1 milligram, half milligram, 3/4 milligram, 3/4, 1 milligram, half a milligram, 3/4 of a milligram, half a milligram. Today so far is half a milligram, and I've only been awake for a few hours, and it is 12:41 in the afternoon, so today is probably going to be a 3/4 milligram day. And I woke up feeling just terrible. I mean, I'm like, that's first thing I did was like, I can't trust myself to feel well enough to go to the dentist. I thought like if I had to go to the dentist today, like in 2 hours, could I do it? I'm like, hell no. And then I realized that I haven't been sleeping at night, and that I would have either a sleepless night altogether, or like uh, just an hour or two to get on a bus or in a car to make an 8:30 appointment in the morning. So yeah, I mean, it seems like while I've been charting this whole thing, it seems like whenever I have some kind of like emotional trauma, that is when I slip up. You know, it's like whenever I have a something hard to do, like go to the dentist, I have to drink some coffee. Um, my aunt is kind of like going back and forth as far as her health. Uh, I only went up to see her the one time. I've been pretty much a mess, and she was out of it for a lot of the times, but I guess she's back to, recognizing people and being coherent and stuff. So I should probably go up there and see her at some point. I'm very ragged and haven't slept more than 3 or 5 hours a night for a very long time. See if I can do this without spilling it. Yeah. Anyways, let's see, 6 months, 6 to 7 months ago now, I was taking a milligram a day, and you know, March 18th, I started my taper. So I'm right at a half or 3/4 of a milligram a day right now, and I've been feeling very, very sick, and I'm just hoping it's because of the benzos. I got the CRPS thing on top of it, so I don't know what's what. I don't know, if I'm feeling this bad because I'm struggling with the Xanax problem, or I feel this bad for some other reason. I went in and got an MRI on my leg. I'm waiting to hear test results on it to see, what they want to do with it, if it needs an operation or whatever. Of course, that doesn't help my anxiety any. Um, yeah, it's really easy for the benzo thing to get away from you because it's like you have to be so strict with yourself with it. And, you know, I'm like, no more. My deal is no more halves, no more half milligrams. If I have to take, like, you know, if the spacing between the 1/4 milligrams has to be 6 hours, then so be it. And then I'm trying to take half milligram a day, which, considering where I was in June, it's very sad. I was actually doing better in April. I started my taper in March, and I was doing better in April than I am now. But then my life's kind of been like a shitstorm of things happening. Which, if you're listening to this, you probably know all those stories. But it's like it's kind of like a one thing after another type of deal, with a constant backbeat of uh, the CRPS. Um, oh, what was I going to talk about? I don't know. I don't know. You like I said, it's like emotional alchemy. You wake up and you just feel like, where's that 9 millimeter aspirin? You just totally. They have to like make fancy words for everything, but you're just totally like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. Why am I alive? So I woke up this morning, and the first thing I'm thinking about is something that happened to me last year, where I'm actually begging somebody for mercy. Like, please don't do this. Don't do this. No, no, please don't do this. Because I know they're going to wreck me emotionally, and they're in the process of it. And I'm begging them not to go there and not to do that. And I'm having an emotional breakdown, and I was like, oh, I had forgotten about that. And I woke up with that in my head for some reason. I just woke up thinking about that. How I was begging, and this trusted person went ahead and trashed me anyway. That's resurfacing. That's like, um, yeah, that's a major deal. I can't get that sorted out because that's out of my hands. I can't really fix it. You know, the only way I could fix it if I could find some way to not say first of all, because that drives me fucking crazy when I do that. But if I could find some way to just forgive them and give them a pass, yeah, okay, so I was begging for my life basically, and you were cold-bloodedly putting up a stone wall and criticizing me after I've helped you for uh, decades, literally been emotional support to you, and you haven't heard me cry for 29 years. And yeah, so yeah, that kind of stuff is very bad for me. I believe it's very bad for everybody, but it's very, very bad for me because I got the CRPS. And I was thinking also, like, a benzo addiction with the CRPS. It's like I couldn't have picked the fucking worst addiction. I should I should took up some other form of addiction, because benzos make your nervous system raw, and my nervous system is already raw, and so it's small wonder that I woke up feeling like shit. Besides having those ideas in my head about begging for mercy from a loved one, and them not showing me any. And Yeah. Boy, do I got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff to work through. It's overwhelming at times, and sometimes I just can't handle it. It's just too much. And the weird thing is, like, since I do listen to other people talk about their benzo situation, and I listen to them talk about their experiences, it's like, well, a lot of this sounds really familiar. That the aches and pains and the other things they have, but I was like, man, I can't tell if, like, I assume that in my deal, um, the benzo problem uh, is amplifying the CRPS symptoms, like a megaphone, like a megaphone, except for there's a howl of anguish coming through the megaphone. But yeah, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I know October was a nightmare for me, and I just kind of slipped into it. The thing with the person suffering like they're suffering is, and I'm still in contact. I'm not really, just because I only went to the hospital once, and I'm hooked up with the people behind the scenes, so I'm kind of like going through it with them, and yeah, supporting them any way I can. So kind of still, I'm still not shirking my emotional duties, so to speak. But yeah, I need to get up there and see her and talk to her. And it brings up other things from my past because I have a very unpleasant past. And yeah, yeah, thinking about that stuff's not gonna do any good. Whew. Yeah, it's rough. Anyways, I was thinking about that this other video I did where I was like, you always think about this stuff after it's too late, though. But I said I could explain myself so much better. Because I was talking about, like, uh, how I was talking about subjectivity. Basically, is how, like, your nervous system, like, paints a world for you, and so everything that you think about things is subjective. They come up with this term objective, but really it's uh, all of it's subjectivity, and it's just like a bunch of people agreeing, like, yep, this is a coffee cup, this is a blue coffee cup. It weighs a lot less depending upon how much coffee it has in it. We all agree upon that, and we say that's an objective fact and stuff. But that's what objective means, is like a consensus of subjective interpretation, because that's all we really have. But anyways, all that is blah 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 blah. The way to sum that up at the best is, like, when I was 20 odd years old, like I think I was 22, I was looking up a C word in the dictionary, not the C word, but I was looking up a C word in the dictionary, and I come across the word color, and my eyes scanned these three words, four words. These four words: color is a sensation. It stopped me dead in my tracks, and I'm like, because you think that brown is connected to that dresser over there, or blue is connected to the sky, but really blue is a sensation that occurs inside you. It's like the way color works. It's like there's a certain molecular arrangement on that dresser over there, and when this light over here hits that dresser and it goes into my eye, I interpret that as brown. And when I was talking about the dog, I was like, the dog can look at the sky, and I don't know what shades dogs see in, but I don't think they have the same color spectrum. Their eyes don't work because they're, for one thing, they're nose dependent. And yeah, color is a sensation. I read that, and that's just stopped me dead in my tracks and floored me. And then I had, like, I don't want to use the word epiphany, but since I've had 3 hours of sleep, 4 or 5, I don't even know. I've not been sleeping well. Epiphany will have to do, but I was like, oh my God, it's like everything I'm looking at I wonder what color it really is. It's like it's probably no color because your nervous system paints this world for you. So the world that my nervous system paints for me, a shirt is an Iron Maiden. Yeah. Uh, Jeans are like wearing a pair of jeans is like the act of a stunt man because my nervous system is so fucked up and it interprets things in all kind of messed up ways, and I'm so used to ignoring what goes on from here down. Whatever sensations I'm used to ignoring, like 75% of what I'm feeling physically all the time. Can't ignore that freaking hypersensitivity though, man. That is like an Iron Maiden. Like I said, when I have to wear a shirt, I wrap an ace bandage around that area like really tightly. But that's really bad today. I can't. And yeah, I just woke up. It all feels too hard, you know. It all feels too hard. I get some caffeine, and which is supposed to be bad for the effectiveness of the quarter milligram of Xanax that I took 20 minutes ago. And it's also supposed to be bad for my heart, and it's also supposed to be bad uh, for anybody with chronic pain. They tell you to lay off the caffeine and don't drink too much coffee. But I'm drinking coffee because I like it. And that one day I drank 3 cups, and sure enough, I can't do that kind of shit because my heart was messing with me. But yeah, anyways, point, what point do we have here? The point for the Benzo update is I got to get a hold on this thing before it gets any worse, and I'm working on it. Like, it's just like what my goal is right now is quarter milligram every 12 hours. And I'm fluctuating between 6 hour intervals and like 13 hour intervals in the last mm, about the last week. I decided that no more halves, no matter what. Believe me, I just wanted to be unconscious when I woke up this morning. You know, because first of all, I feel like death. I had to cancel an appointment. I hate canceling appointments. And I had that thing in my head about begging somebody not to wreck me and then having them wreck me anyway. And that's a whole big thing. I never know how personal to get on here. I always think, like, what if the people I'm talking about would actually give a shit enough to watch these videos, and they'd be like that son of a bitch, man. You know, we have our thing here. We don't talk to people outside the family. Never talk. Never show dissension. I forget the line from The Godfather where he was like, "Never talk against the family" or something like that. The only part I really remember is the part where in The Godfather is the part where he says, "Someday I may ask you to do me a favor." I think about that all the time. Sometimes I say that when I loan people money, and they're like, "Oh, you know, I'll get this back to you," and then I'll do that Godfather imitation and say, "Someday I'm gonna ask you to do me a favor." But yeah, that's something I've always would have loved to be able to do as impressions, but I don't have a good ear for music or imitating people's voices. Voices. Mm. Yeah. Color is a sensation. That tripped me out. I never thought of it. I never thought about that way. I thought the sky was blue whether I was here or not to look at it. And it'll be blue to other people, I guess, when I'm gone, but the sky is really not blue. Don't tell nobody that. But it's really not blue. I think everything is just clear, you know. Then there's the other thing about like we don't really know. Hey, the Amish people. I got the window open. I don't know if you could hear that, but every Saturday, um, Amish people go down the road with the horse and buggy thing and go up and down the street selling their wares. Um, I'm not a food guy, so I've never bought anything at all off of them. But so I've been living here 8 years, and every Saturday, like clockwork, right around noonish, I hear clippity 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 clop, and transports me back to the 18th century. I always wondered the thing. I always think one thing about the Amish. It's like, man, life is harder than fuck. Why in the hell do you want to make it even harder? Yeah, let's take away all the modern conveniences out of life that would make life easier. That I don't understand. Yeah, I have to talk to myself and you because yeah, when I get like this, it's like there's really nobody I can call. I was really bad yesterday, and my one friend I trust the most called me, and I didn't inflict too much of my bad mood on him, but he was telling me about a situation he had in his building because he rents, and where he's got a crazy guy living in the building, and he's literally like crazy, and he was just up and he like they have one of them old fashioned attics like in a horror movie where you got to have a ladder in this building he rents out because I used to live there, and nobody can go in the attic. You got to get this ladder and have a pull down ladder, and he said you got to be kind of athletic because you got to be skinny and athletic because you got to poke your head through this hole in the ceiling. This is an old building, and then like do a dip, they call it, in the weight room. You got to press your arms out, poke your head through, and then throw your first half of your body in. It's a whole big thing. So anyway, this crazy guy got up in the attic, and he's up there stomping around, and it's freaking everybody in the building out. And so he has to go up there, and he's like talking to the guy. He's like, I already called the cops, and he can't get anything. The guy hasn't done anything illegal, so he can't get the guy the help he needs, and he's trying to talk to the policeman. And really, the guy needs. They used to have this thing called pink slipping with a police, where a police could play psychiatrist. They don't have it anymore, according to him. He told me about this years ago and scared the shit out of me. But a policeman can decide. Used to be able to decide that you are mentally unstable, and they call it pink slipping. And they could put you in a little local mental hospital here for 3 days against your will. It's like, wow. I was like, wow, I did not know this. And he goes, yeah. And then he was telling me a story about he had another policeman that he worked with, and he had a feud going with the guy, and the guy was always being a dick, always being a pain in the ass, and then he would keep complaining to whoever their superior was, the sergeant, I guess. Well, I'll call him a sergeant. Whoever their superior was, the guy was always going in there and complaining to him about my friend. And my friend went in there and talked to the sergeant and said, "Look, here's the situation." So the next time the guy that was my friend's enemy came in there to complain about him, he was like, "Listen, Rogers, the next time you come in my office complaining about, I'm gonna pink slip you." He's like, "I'm gonna throw you in a state hospital because you're a fucking nut." That cracked me up. The one cop, higher up cop, threatening the other cop with throwing him in a mental institution for 3 days involuntarily, but they're not allowed to do that crap anymore, thank God. But it's like, yeah, I would not want a cop playing psychiatrist and deciding I was a loony the way I talk and my personal forms of expressions and various idioms. I could have got pink slipped anytime I got stopped by a cop, especially in my 20s. Yeah, I remember this one cop stopped me and started asking me a bunch of questions, and I just started I was like, yeah, 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 Bush is the president, somebody's the vice president, this guy's the speaker of the house. I just started rattling shit off, because he was asking me all these damn questions, and he wouldn't let me put my hands in my pockets, and it was about 10 degrees outside, and I was like, he's like, keep your hands out of your pockets. I'm there freezing my ass off, and he's got me stopped, and he's sitting in a warm car asking me all these questions, and I just went off, and I started naming off all the executives in our government and who was the Speaker of the House and everything, and he was like, man, I don't need no case of ass out of some punk like you, and he got all pissed off, of course, and I apologized. He goes, yeah, just get the fuck down the road. I remember that. I could have got a pink slip that day. That's just a freaking horrifying thought, though. You know, that you could have a bad exchange with a police officer, and a police officer just throw you in a mental facility. And I have been in mental facilities before. I've never been in a state hospital or anything like that. I think that's where they would send you. I've been in psychiatric units, and you meet some very interesting people in psychiatric units. State hospitals, I suppose, would be even more interesting. But yeah, man, that thought really struck me. But I talked to him yesterday, and he said they don't do that anymore. Because I said, why don't you just pink slip him or have him pink slipped? He goes, no, they don't do that anymore. And he's not. He's a retired police officer anyway. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, that's what's interesting about life is other people. And you know, I can only be on here talking about my boring self with any kind of freedom. And there's all these interesting people that I know, but I have to like try to guard their identity and keep their stories to a minimum and all that. It's just all very restrictive. I'm not used to inhibitions when it comes to my ever loving mouth running and running and running like a faucet with no washers in it. But yeah, the benzo thing's not hopeless. I mean, I can get a handle on it again. I got a handle on it once. I mean, I've heard that with the kindling thing, is like when you updose, the withdrawal is worse or it gets harder. I mean, I haven't really noticed that. I mean, it's bad, but it's just as bad. It's the same level of badness. You know. Sorry about that. I haven't eaten, so my stomach is growling. I don't feel like eating. Um, but yeah, that's the thing. I got to stop with the updosing. You know, I gotta find another way to cope as far as like the emotional crap that's going on with me and um, other things. There's yeah, the updosings. Like I said, I'm on quarters now, and gonna stick to it. If I have to, I'm gonna start spacing it out. I know people are gonna tell me like water titration's the way to go and all that, but I don't know. Right now, I'm just working on same thing I've been working on for going on 7 months now, and that's just taking less. Um, I might consider trying to get some volume and trying. And that's when I do the best. Is the volume just agrees with me more. I might actually talk to my psych person I see and just like once I got a decent enough stockpile of Xanax, just I got a pretty good stockpile right now. Like I should be like 50 pills ahead. Uh, so I got a pretty good stockpile right now, and I could next time I go in and see the psychiatric guy who's able to write prescriptions, I could just tell him that I want to switch from Xanax to Valium and just try that. And I don't work out some kind of schedule and let him handle it because he actually seems to give a shit about me. But I'm not a good judge when it comes to things like that of people that actually give a fuck and people. Usually I can tell when people don't give a fuck, but a lot of times when I think people do give a fuck, it's really like they don't. Like my landlord, for instance, when I paid the rent, he had a family member that was in the hospital that he had to wait all morning that was getting a surgery. So naturally, I got a family member in the hospital, so I sat in his truck and we had like a deep conversation. Very good listener, and I'm sharing like how I really feel about things with him, like deep, like a conversation you would have with the guy in a bar after the sixth or seventh drink, type of conversation, but we're both sober. Yeah, so on the basis of that, you think, yeah, this guy is my buddy. This guy is my friend, man. I can trust this guy. But then this is the same guy that was trying to convince me to live with criminals in my building because it was easier on him. This is the same guy that every time we get drug dealers in here, I can't get him to kick him out. Like the other, to tie it into my other cop friend. My other cop friend was like, yeah, I'm worried about the other people in the building. I was like, he said he was talking to a cop who'd been on the job for 5 years. And he said the guy told him, like, said some stupid crap to him that didn't make no sense, you know. And he said, I should have told him, like, oh, yeah, you know, because he was acting like it was his problem where the guy lived, you know, because he said, well, that's not going to solve the problem if you do that. And, you know, my friend was thinking, he'll solve the problem with me because he'll get him out of my damn building. You know, and he thought about it later and he said, man, I should have just told him, yeah, you want him to take care of him? Why don't you go invite him to live in your house? You know. So anyways, yeah. So this guy, my friend who rents, he's like worried about the other people in the building because he's like, I don't want that crazy guy living, you know, around the other people in the building. Here I had crazy drug dealers living in my house, and my landlord trying to convince me to get along with them. You know, I mean, that place I guess still stinks. I mean, the person that lives in it that I'm uh, kind of like know from before, um, they said it still smells like an ammonia weird smell, and I'm like, that's all the meth that got smoked in it. You're not going to get rid of that. You know, they weren't cooking up there as far as I know, but they were smoking. You know, and my you know, I said, well, that's the difference between you as a landlord and my actual landlord. Is my actual landlord doesn't seem to give a shit about other people in the building when you got a problem in the building. He just wants his money. You know, and that's the same guy that I was sitting there talking about deep, serious, emotional, intimate stuff with, and he was too. You know, so it's like, yeah, he'll be there for that, but he won't be there. He don't have. That's what I told my other friend. Is like, my landlord don't have my back when it comes down to it, but at the same time, he's a good listener and he'll listen to that stuff like that. So, anyways, I had a psychologist that I don't have anymore. That was about my age, and she used to say, like, you can get your needs met. Like, one person might be a good listener, so you go to them when you need somebody to listen. One person might be somebody that can help you in another way. It's like you got to go to like different people. You don't depend on people for everything. You know, you just go to one person. He's like, well, this person I can get a funny conversation out of. This person will give me a ride to the store. This person I can have a serious conversation with. And this little piggy had none. That's what I was thinking about when I was doing it. But yeah, you can go to. So yeah, I could do that maybe with him, you know, and even though he doesn't do his job as a landlord, it's like he seems like, for especially for a dude, he seems like he listens really really good, and like you know, I can share my emotions with him, and I gave him a pass on his landlording for a long time. I've never talked about this before, but his wife got misdiagnosed, and everybody thought he thought his wife was dying of a rare liver disease. And you know, she was real sick and had fatigue and pain, and she was actually on the organ transplant donor list. uh, you know, that's how serious it was, or how serious they thought it was. And then they went to other doctors and they were like, no, this is a misdiagnosis. You know, so I was always giving him a pass on everything because the guy thought his wife was dying. You know, he's a family man. And he held up pretty well, but sometimes he'd be cracking around the edges, you know, and I'd seen him get misty eyed and stuff, you know. When we talk about it and whatnot, he never broke down or not like that. So maybe that's the basis for, you know, what happened earlier in this month in the truck where I was talking to him about my situation. And, anyways, it's like, oh, that is so fucked up. You know, doctors misdiagnosed him, and they were like, this is like over a period of 2 or 3 years, they had this diagnosis of death hanging over him. But now he's got no goddamn excuse because his wife's doing better, and they found out that she doesn't have this rare liver condition. and all that. And it turns out he's just a shitty landlord. And I'm just coming to grips with this as I look at the holes in my ceiling. And yeah, that's why I made that recording or that video on here that's labeled "A Monster Walks Above Us." It's like I more or less made that for the landlord, and I'm going to show that video to the landlord. And I said, like, this is what it sounds like in here, you know. And I said, I don't know what we can do about it, but this, I just wanted to know, this is what this isn't normal, like, heavy-footed walking. This is something different. This sounds different, and it shakes the house. It's like, I would call it vibratory impact tremors rather than steps. Walking rather than walking, I would call it Godzilla stomping. This is a whole nother deal. I got these are called shooter's earplugs. They work really well. They got like fins on them. Yeah, the problem is they're not very comfortable, but they work extremely well. So I wasted $3.59 on the foam ones, and the foam ones didn't really work. I could still hear, but those things, they work really well. But then, like, they're not comfortable to wear for any length of time or anything like that. Maybe I can develop calluses in my ears. I don't know. But yeah, that's another thing. It's like that's something like that is like oh, she was almost gonna stomp on cue there. But something like that is like somebody sitting beside you and like humming annoyingly at work, or like tapping their pen or something. You know, it's just the constantness of it that gets to you. But this kind of thing will actually make me jump sometimes and startle. You know, so uh, yeah. All right. Try to make myself feel better, and this is one way that I do it, is like through expression, self-expression, making a bunch of words. It does make me feel better. And yeah, a little bit of coffee didn't hurt either. So yeah, I feel a little better now. Um, Maybe my quarter milligram is kicking into and taking the edge off things a little bit. Um, Not happy about that situation, but like I said, I didn't do a complete Sisyphusian. Sisyphusian. You know, Sisyphus, the guy that rolls the boulder up the hill and then it rolls back down, and he's condemned to just keep doing this over and over again. That's kind of what you feel like if you yo-yo with benzos. You feel like it's so hard to push that freaking benzo ball up the hill, and then you lose control of it and it rolls back down, and you're just like, you realize this and you're like, oh man, I got to do it all over again. And that's why you don't updose. It's Sisyphus, I think, is the dude. Because there was two dudes in Greek mythology. There was a dude that rolled this boulder up a hill, and then he would get to the top of the hill and it roll back down, and he'd have to do it over and over again. And then there was another dude that had like a sieve, and he was trying to like bail the ocean with a sieve. And another metaphor for futility was is much more horrible, is Prometheus being tied to a tree and having his liver eaten by a vulture, and then his liver would grow back, and I think the vulture would eat the liver over again. I think that's how that went. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, it's a Sisyphusian, a Sisyphusian. It's a Sisyphus-like challenge to get off of benzos, because it's just so hard, and it's such a daily struggle, push, 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 constant struggle. And like, if you lose control of that boulder, it rolls all the way back down the hill, and you feel like you're starting from scratch. But I'm not really starting from scratch. I'm really still better off than I was 7 months ago, so I have to think of it like that. And yeah, this is long enough, I guess, of a visit with y'all. And yeah, this is this is still going to be a hard day and stuff, but it's always good to not be thinking about 9mm aspirins first thing in the morning. I'm not thinking about that anymore. And just for the brief moment I've had on here trying to be coherent and trying to make sense and trying to say various interesting things has kept me from thinking about actually begging someone that you love not to hurt you while you're crying for the first time in 29 years and having them do it anyway. And then you have to try to forgive that somehow when they won't apologize for it, when they put out zero effort to try to reconnect with you. And you got this other person that is like, well, you should just accept their apology. They didn't hear the apology because there wasn't really an apology. And, that all that's just hard. It's very, very hard. Any kind of emotional conflict, anything like that is just very hard when you're going through a benzo withdrawal. And that's some heavy stuff. It seems like Katie Harwin wants to talk to me. And she just said, "'Cause you a cracker." I need to know how to disable that thing where it pops up when your messages, when somebody replies to a thread you've replied to on YouTube, because that is very annoying. But yeah. Anyways, uh, I'm also like, this is another reason why this is 40 minutes long, is because this is just another form of distraction to keep me from the fact that I still have bad teeth that need pulled out of my head, and I still have a benzo problem, and I still have CRPS, and I still have those heavy emotional burdens weighing me down and all that stuff. And the sirens in the distance at least aren't coming for me. So I really am a glass half full type of dude, though it may not seem like that at times, because I just have a lot of stuff, and I don't know why in the hell would I wake up with them thoughts in my head? Like, why would I wake up thinking about that? I hadn't really, how when you got bad stuff, you just want to forget it, you know. And sometimes it resurfaces whether you want to forget it or not. And it's like, not first thing in the morning though. First thing in the morning, literally, why am I waking up thinking about this? I'm waking up and I'm thinking about, oh yeah, I mean, this is before I'm even fully conscious. I'm thinking about, oh yeah, I remember that's how that went. No, I don't need to be brooding about that situation. I just need to get it past me. But you can't. How do you forgive someone who won't apologize? I don't know how to do that. And I'm gonna share something with you now. Like, I didn't talk to my father for 12 years uh, before he died. The last time I talked to him was in 2003, and he died in 2015. And I didn't know how to how to forgive somebody if they don't apologize. I don't know how to do that. Or just, I don't even like need like I said, I don't need the "I'm sorry" part. I just need you to admit that you did something fucked up. But I'm cool because I do fucked up things too. So if you just admit what you did was really, really twisted and fucked up, then I'm like, well, we all got our things. But so I'm not sure how to, you know, I felt like I was the wrong party, and I was the guy that picked up the phone. And took a lot of nerve for me to pick up the phone and put myself in harm's way again, and I got blasted again, boom, with the double barrel. And I can't do that a third time, especially struggling with the benzo thing. And yeah, and it's also like, there's this, I don't know if it's a parable or a story or what you would call it, but like, there's a genie in a bottle. Genie's stuck in a fucking bottle. And like, after 100 years, he's like, man, if anybody lets me out of this bottle, I will give him the whole world. All his riches, all his desires will be satisfied. Then after 500 years go by, he's like, not only will I give him the whole world and all his desires will be satisfied, I'll give him my genie gig and give him magic powers where he can be a genie. Then after 1,000 years, he goes, I ain't the first person that lets me out of this bottle. I'm going to kill that guy. And that's kind of how I feel about like this situation, because like if this person would have come and fixed it and made an effort like right away, I'd be like, okay, you know. But then time goes by, and I'm left to suffer more and more and brood on this and deal with the emotional fallout from it more and more and more. And I'm more and more like that genie where I just want to kill him, you know. And while I got to this far, it's like I never understood. I've had people do some bad things to me, but I never understood hatred and the how people and why people would kill until this thing happened. You know, it's like they actually taught me like why people kill people that don't kill people for profit or amusement is because they got so much anger and hatred in them that they can't find no other way to express it. They just want to express it. They just want to get rid of all that horrible feeling, and it comes out in a violent act. Like my father was a violent man, and I think I heard a story about that he heard somebody swearing in front of his sister at a gas station because the vending machine ripped him off, and he used it as an excuse to hospitalize the guy because he was swearing in front of his sister. And his sister said, I've heard those words that he said every day of my life, my entire life. So it was just an excuse to vent and get rid of all his hatred and anger at somebody else's expense. And I've never had that. You know, I've been spared that. But now I know what that's like. You know, it's like, yeah, I can see where somebody would kill somebody because they got all that hatred and anger in them, and they don't know how to get rid of it, and they're left no way to express it because the person that they have the hate and anger uh, toward, like, they're living in a different world because they're not admitting what's going on. So you're left with no way to really express it. And unless you want to write a story about somebody killing somebody, I guess. I don't know. I don't write anymore, so I could barely. I have my project that I still want to do. And I have a picture over here while I'm wasting time on here with you. Uh, yeah, I got a story about a guy who was in prison named Big Time Fooler. And in prison, he was a middleweight boxer, and he's a drug dealer and a loan shark, among other things. But I was like, I can't figure out how to do this. But I just, instead of like a blank screen, I just want to put this picture up because it's perfect for the story. It's just a picture of a guy, of Marvin Hagler, famous middleweight boxer, my favorite boxer, wrapping his hands up. Because there's a very cool part in the story where the guy is wrapping his hands up before he has to do some unpleasant, difficult work on somebody's face. So my character also has, kind of looks like that. I didn't do it intentionally, but he's kind of like. So I was going to put this picture up, but I don't know how to do it. You know, I can't hold this picture up and read at the same time. I don't know if I need an easel or something. But I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know how to do that kind of thing. And I'm not in any real learning position. I can't even freaking read the story. The story's only about 25 minutes, but I was like, yeah, that would be cool because that would give people something to look at while they listen to the story. Because I look at other people's audiobooks and even some professional ones, and they'll just have like the cover of the book up as a picture, have something up there instead of like a blue or black screen, which is where I'm at right now. But not being a tech guy, I don't know how to manipulate videos and put images on them and all that stuff. I would have to have somebody teach me how to do that, or being an autodidact, I could probably learn to do that myself, but that would take more patience than I have at the moment. And that kind of bums me out that I don't get to do the things that I want to do, because that is kind of what I want to do, is read a couple of my stories. And right now, my nerves are too cooked, and I can't do that in a way that would be wasting the time of the reader and the readee. The guy reading the story do a shitty job, and the readee is the guy that would be listening to the story. They'd be like, yeah, this guy's really not into it. He's not doing a good job with this. I want to do a good job with it and make it something listenable. Anyways, well, my Benzo report was at the beginning. And if I have anybody still with me that's listening to me, thank you for your time. And it's been a pleasure as always. And I will talk to you next time. Goodbye.